Hello, City of Wausau residents. My name is Leslie and I am your city clerk. I wanted to talk to you today about the election process. The City of Wausau has decided to do this video to explain the various ways that voters can cast a ballot in elections. This video is specific to the City of Wausau, but many of the things that we will talk about would apply throughout the state of Wisconsin. The clerk's office has received several questions about the absentee ballot process and some other questions about elections in general. Since we have a large November general election coming up, we thought this was a good time to connect with you. The City of Wausau decided to provide this video to help residents understand the process and also to address some misconceptions that may exist in regard to the election process. So there's a few different ways that voters can cast a ballot ahead of Election Day or on Election Day. You could go to the polls on Election Day to cast your ballot. You could request an absentee ballot to be mailed to you ahead of the election, or you could take advantage of the early in-person absentee voting period that typically happens 2 weeks before an election. This video explains the absentee ballot process and how to return absentee ballots. So let's begin. First, it is important to understand that laws vary from state to state when we're talking about elections. Therefore, when you are listening to or reading an article about elections, it must be taken into account whether the author is talking about Wisconsin elections or their state's elections. Also, some people mistakenly believe that their state's elections process applies everywhere in the United States. So they may believe that what they're talking about applies everywhere when in fact it does not. Therefore, it's very important to make sure that you're receiving your information from a reliable source. In Wisconsin, your most reliable sources will be your local municipal clerk or the Wisconsin Elections Commission. Their website is full of great information. Wisconsin law does not allow for universal mail-in voting. What Wisconsin law does allow for is for absentee ballots to be mailed to eligible voters who have a valid request on file. This means, number one, you must be a registered voter in your municipality. Step two is that you must submit an absentee ballot application in writing to your municipal clerk along with appropriate photo ID unless you are exempt from providing that, or you would not be receiving an absentee ballot by mail. If you don't know if you already have a request on file, you can easily contact your municipal clerk to ask, or you can visit the MyVote website that Wisconsin maintains to also find out that information. In Wisconsin, the voter can choose then whether to mail that absentee ballot back or to drop it off in person or by some other means, which we will talk about later. So sometimes in Wisconsin, people mix up those two terms of mail-in voting and absentee voting because you're getting that absentee ballot by mail and you can choose to mail it back. But again, please realize that we do not have universal mail-in voting. So what is the absentee ballot process? Let's look at some of the things of what happens in the process. First, as I said before, you must be a registered voter. How do you become a registered voter? If you aren't already, you would go either to the MyVote website and register electronically, or you would submit a voter registration application to your municipal clerk. Proof of residency is required. For questions on that, again, your municipal clerk or the Wisconsin Elections Commission website can provide you information on that. Once you're registered, then, as I said again before, you would have to submit an absentee ballot application to your municipal clerk with appropriate photo ID if required. An absentee ballot application will look similar to this if you're doing it by paper. Again, you can do this electronically on the MyVote website. If you're doing it by paper and you need a copy sent to you, just call your municipal clerk or email her or him and ask for one to be sent to you. You can also print it off from the Wisconsin Elections Commission website. You just complete the application, indicate whether you want a certain election or whether you want it for a calendar year. Also, if you qualify as an indefinitely confined voter, you can also check that box. Once you have completed the application, you must submit it to your municipal clerk along with acceptable photo ID, again, unless you are exempt. There are instructions on the back that go through all the parts of the application and explain things in more detail. If you should have any questions, I and my office staff are always available just by a phone call to answer those questions. Once you have submitted your application for an absentee ballot and the clerk has confirmed that everything is proper on that application, it is entered into the WisVote system, and then the first date that ballots become available for whichever election it is, All the voters who have a valid request on file are then mailed that absentee ballot. For this election, the November 3rd general election, the first date that absentee ballots can be mailed to voters who have valid requests on file is September 17th. So if you have the valid request on file, and now the ballot is going to be sent to you, what are things going to look like when it arrives in your mailbox? The outside envelope is going to be large and it's going to look like this. When you receive it, you will open it up and you will find several contents in there. This is referred to as the certification envelope. And what you're going to see on that is your voter information, so you don't have to write anything in there for who you are or what ward you are or anything. That will all be there. You'll also see a barcode. That is important because that's how we record when we get your ballot back. So it's important not to put two ballots in there, or if you are a husband and a wife, to submit two ballots in one envelope. Your envelope goes with your ballot only. So you'll have your certification envelope. Another thing that you will see there is you'll have an instruction sheet that will be accompanied in that with your ballot. And we're going to go through some of the contents of that instruction sheet as we complete the ballot process. The other thing that will be in there is obviously your ballot for whichever election it is. So what should we be aware of? Well, the first thing is you have to have an adult witness when you are voting your ballot. So when you receive the contents, you'll want to look to make sure that everything that I have told you should be in there is in there. And then when you're ready to vote your ballot, you're going to want to have your adult witness there. Everything that I'm going to talk about will be on this instruction sheet that you receive in the mail. So who can be a witness? Anyone who's a U.S. citizen who is at least 18 years old. For military or overseas voters, your witness must be at least 18 years old, but is not required to be a U.S. citizen. So a witness in general could be a friend, a spouse, a neighbor, a family member. So once you have your witness and you're ready to vote your ballot, obviously you don't want your witness to be hovering over you, because voting your ballot is a private matter. So you just want to make sure that they're seeing that you are the one completing the ballot. So you would complete your ballot. You would then fold your ballot, however is most convenient for you. And then you're going to find that certification envelope. And you're going to insert it inside the certification envelope, and then you're going to seal that envelope. Now on the certification envelope where I showed you before, with your witness there, you're going to sign on the voter line. Again, the step-by-step instructions are going to be on this instruction sheet, so you can follow them exactly. The voter will sign here where it says voter signature, and then the witness must sign and provide the witness address. It's very important that these yellow places are completely filled out and are correctly filled out. Otherwise, we cannot accept your ballot to be counted on election day. If we receive this back and it's not completely filled out, we will make every attempt to contact the voter to let them know that it is insufficient and they must correct it before the polls close on election day. But it is much better if you can complete it correctly the first time and know that your ballot is going to be counted. Again, you will find all of these things outlined on the instruction sheet that will accompany your ballot. So a couple of things to remember is, if you have received an absentee ballot from the city of Wausau, it means that you have provided the photo ID that is required, and you do not have to provide anything along with that ballot. That's one question that we get from a lot of voters is, do they have to include their photo ID? No, if you've received it from us, you have it on file. Another question we get is, what happens if I lose my absentee ballot, or if I make a mistake when I'm voting my absentee ballot? Please give us a call. We can cancel that original ballot and reissue you a new absentee ballot by mail. We also have other methods, like when we offer the early in-person voting, you could choose to just come in and vote in person early, or you always have the option that if you have not returned your absentee ballot, you could go to the polls on election day and cast your ballot. So if you make a mistake or you lose it, please give us a call and let's walk through what we might be able to do to correct that for you. Just in case you are wondering, if you are a voter who has called and requested that your first ballot be canceled because you've either made a mistake or you've lost your absentee ballot and you would like our office to reissue you a new one, I want you to know that that first ballot would be canceled and would be void, so that If you were to find that ballot later on, after you have been reissued a new one, and then try to return that first one that has been canceled, the system would tell us that that one is void, has been canceled, and there is no way possible that that first one would be counted. I want to make this clear so that there is no misconception that if you had a ballot reissued for some reason, that you could potentially vote 2 ballots. It just is not possible because the system would tell us that that first one has been canceled and is not able to be counted. So basically, that is the absentee ballot process for how you would vote your ballot and get it ready to return it to your municipal clerk to be counted on election day. So now let's talk about how you return that ballot. There's several ways that that could happen. And again, this is going to be outlined on the instruction sheet. This video is being prepared for the city of Wausau, so you may have other options available to you by your municipal clerk or your municipality, which you can check on or may be included in your instruction sheet. But definitely, please remember to contact your municipality if you have questions. This video is specifically the city of Wausau's policy. You can, of course, return your ballot by mail. The envelope that you're getting, that certification envelope, has the postage on it, so you could just mail it back to us. If you don't want to mail it back to us, you can bring it in person and drop it off at the city clerk's office. Again, this needs to be dropped off before the polls close on election day. Additionally, the city of Wausau has recently installed an absentee ballot drop box. If you drop it off in the absentee ballot drop box, we get it that same day, and you don't have to worry about timing in the mail or whether it was received by the clerk's office. It also is safe and secure, so you don't have to worry that anything could happen to your ballot. Another option is you can bring it here to City Hall on election day. We have central count for the absentee ballots, which means on election day, all absentee ballots are processed at the central count location, being City Hall. You also always have the option to drop your absentee ballot off at your polling location if it is not convenient for you to come to City Hall to drop it off. We do ask, though, that if at all possible, that you do bring it to City Hall on election day because of the central count location. We have talked about the absentee ballot mailing process, or said another way, these are absentee ballots that have been requested by mail. Absentee ballots also can be given to the voter during the early in-person absentee voting period. This always occurs 2 weeks before an election, and you have to check your specific municipality for the hours and dates, and also where they hold it. In the city of Wausau, we are holding it at City Hall. During the early in-person absentee voting period, a voter would come to City Hall. It would be very much like election day at the polls. You would present your name and address to the attendant. You would show your photo ID. We would provide the ballot to you. And then you would vote that ballot and you would place it. You will be given the envelope just like you would if it was mailed. You'll place your ballot in the envelope and then you'll give it back to us. So if you're voting during the early in-person absentee voting period, you cannot leave with your ballot. So some people ask, what happens to the ballots when you receive them back because it's before election day? And how do I know that that ballot is secure? So I want to talk to everyone a little bit about that. So when your ballot is received back here in my office, the first thing that we do is look at that certification on the envelope to make sure it's sufficient. Because if it wasn't, we'd want to be able to contact the voter to make sure that they have an opportunity to correct that. We want every vote to count here. Assuming that everything is correct, the next step is that we have to record that you have returned your absentee ballot. The Wisconsin Elections Commission maintains a site called WisVote, and that is what municipal clerks use to record these transactions. So your ballot is scanned in to be recorded that we received it on that day. Once that happens, the ballot is then locked in a secure location until election day when it can be processed. In case you're wondering, when we receive that absentee ballot back, the envelope is not opened in any way. It is nothing is done with it aside from recording that we have received it. And then again, it is locked securely until election day. So you don't have to worry that something is going to happen to it or that somehow people are going to know how you voted before election day. It just simply cannot happen. The state of Wisconsin has many strict election laws, and it is a very secure and safe voting process. I invite all residents to call me with any questions or concerns they have, and I'm happy to explain the process. Also, if you are in the area and you wanted to see how anything works, please let me know and I'm happy to show that to you. I hope that this video has helped to clear up any misconceptions or questions that you may have about the absentee ballot process here in Wisconsin. Again, sometimes people don't realize that what they're talking about in their state does not apply to all states. In Wisconsin, we do not have the universal mail-in voting. The only type of mail-in voting that Wisconsin has is the absentee ballot by mail option. And that only goes to voters who have a valid request on file. It is a safe and secure way to cast a ballot ahead of Election Day, and you can rest assured that your ballot is safe and secure, and as long as you have followed the instructions that I have gone through and that are on that instruction sheet that you'll receive with your ballot, you can be assured that your ballot will count on Election Day. Thank you.